It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Avraham Packter. Avraham, if you could mention about your family and where you were born and your history.
Fine. Well, I'm born in 1942 in the town of Enschede, near the German border. Two parents who were, my father was first generation born in Holland, from Lithuanian stock, and my mother came to Holland in 1933, was sent by her parents to freedom, as they thought it would be. Yeah, I hoped it to be, and she chose this township of Enschede because there was a Hachshara of the Aguda, and there she found mostly German youth.
She was from Germany, your mother?
Yes, yes.
Where in Germany?
Bavaria. Nuremberg, she was born in Nuremberg. And there she found youngsters of her own mentality, let's say, and speaking the language. So that's why we came to Enschede. Her parents followed a few years later and established themselves also in Enschede. My father was originally from Amsterdam, but in the beginning of the war, after they married, they took also residence there in Enschede. I was born in 1942. That was at the point where the Germans started to recruit Dutch Jews for work camps, as they were called. And at the time that I was born, my father had just received a call to report to the authorities, and he got a deferment for a week, I think, for the bris, to attend to the bris. And well, he made use of that, of course, and immediately after the bris he disappeared. That means went into hiding. My first recollections from the war are nothing really. I hardly I've got flashes which I remember from my foster parents, and the first recollections are really from straight after the war. My parents kept we were hiding in different places. I've got an older sister who was hiding somewhere in the countryside, me at a nearby small town, and my parents went in hiding in Enschede from 42 till the end of the war, 45. They changed, I think, twice, 3 times addresses because of fear of treason. And but I was the stable family. They didn't have any other children, so they only had to care for me, and they did it very well. I must say, my stepmother kept a diary of my development. For the biological mother, I've got it still here. I'll show you, just a minute. This is a copy of it, which was made by Yad Vashem. The only such document they have from the war. The only diary of this guy of a child in hiding. It's loose, but have a look. That's me, with the date and also.
And this is your stepmother's
Yeah.
writing?
Yes, she was a teacher, as you see.
And she took the picture?
No, the pictures were taken by her husband.
My husband,
And
I mean,
they had to be
she
developed.
organized the pictures.
Yes.
And this was in 43?
This was 43, beginning 43.
20th of February 43.
Yeah. And there are more pictures. The developing was more of a problem than taking pictures, because it had to be done by hobbyists, yes?
This is amazing. And the lady, this is your stepmother?
Yes.
How did your parents meet, or how did they know to send to?
They didn't know. My older sister was taken up by a client of my father, of my grandfather, and who had contact with the underground, and they took me as well in order to give me further on. But my parents didn't know.
They didn't know who you were going to be taken, or who was going to look after you.
Yeah. My sister, of course, they took my sister in for a short while, just to, in order till they had a definite place for her. Yeah, but they didn't want to let her go, so that's why she stayed at the same place during all of the war.
But it was extremely dangerous.
Yes, it certainly was. Yes.
Look, it's maybe a whole diary. They kept till 1945.
Yeah.
And did your parents ever meet the lady that?
Yeah. After the war, they kept close contact with the foster family. I remember the mother passed away quite quickly after the war. She was ill, and
do you still have memories of the mother?
Hardly. Yeah, vague. But the father, I kept reached a high age, old age, and he became 92, 93, I think, and we always kept contact with them. Towards the end of the diary and the end of the war, of course, photo material got scarce, of course, and therefore there are less photos there.
There's these photos. Wow. Were they ever made Chasidei Motalam, righteous amongst the nations?
Yes. When they were alive, when my stepfather was alive, he didn't want to hear about it. But after he passed away, I did so posthumously.
It was made.
And we made a ceremony in Holland, in the old age home where his widow lived. That means the second wife lived, and the children were all invited, and it was
so you had children from the second wife?
For the first and the second.
Oh, they did have children afterwards.
There were 3 sons altogether, and it was very impressive, I must say. It was done by the Israeli embassy, and they sent somebody to another place where they lived, and it was very well done. No, there's only...
And they recognized you at Yad Vashem as well?
Yes, of course, yes. Well, these are less interesting, I think.
But still, they took pictures here. So we show these.
They're generally dated.
And this is the only diary of a child that was hidden in the Holocaust.
I think so, yes.
And has the book, this was written in Dutch, obviously.
Yes.
Has it been translated?
No. It's not interesting.
It must be fascinating. Not interesting, incredible.
It is the development of a small child, of a baby, into a 3-year-old. That's all. There's nothing spectacular happened. Baruch Hashem. I asked them once whether they were not concerned about neighbors who could be suspected of treason, you say, yes? And they said they had one woman neighbor who they didn't trust, but she never reacted, so that was the mother. After the war, they had their own children, three children, and I also keep contact with them, not too much, but still. And we've got good relationships. Now, speaking about these copies, my father wrote during the hiding period Haggadah and Megillus Esther in a simple notebook, a school notebook, as primitive as it was at those times, and that's also very interesting. Is got a very nice handwriting.
And he wrote this from memory, or?
Could be. I'm not sure. Some things indicate that he did it from memory. Others may have been too complicated. But he was Ish Yodea Sefer. He could learn, and he wasn't strange to it. But to write the Megillus Esther with hardly any mistakes.
And this is when he was in hiding.
Yeah. It was his occupation for a few months, I suppose. And this is the Megillus Esther.
That's amazing. But Avraham, can I just mention?
Yeah, please.
Even with the story of Anne Frank, they say that they were betrayed, that they're not sure who did it, if there was the cleaner in the house or a foreman, but they were betrayed, and there were professional, unfortunately there were also Dutch people that were rewarded by the Gestapo, by the Germans, for catching Jews.
They got 7.5 guilders, which is, I can't translate it in currency of the moment, but it's not very much.
But at the time, a lot of people were unemployed.
7.5 guilders a head.
Wow. But some people, they were unemployed, and it's so sad that people resorted to
that
catching
kind of income. Now they did it more l'shem shamayim, I think. The treason. There were more bad Dutchmen than good ones. They have generally make the impression on the world that the Dutch were very good to the Jews and they hid them and so on, but there were many more who
informed.
Yeah.
So why is that conception? Because the conception is that the Dutch really did guard the way.
There were many Dutch who went out of their way to. They risked their lives also.
It's
don't
true.
Forget, but the anti-Semites. They got they were stronger. They were more and stronger.
And after the war, or can I ask, during the war, with your parents, did they hide nearby where you were staying, or they?
Yeah,
Did
they
have
at
any-
one time, my sister, who was in a neighboring village, was taken by her stepsister, older stepsister, must have been around her 20s at the time, was taken on a bike with wooden tires through all kinds of back ways and then to Enschede, to where my parents lived, and they visited my parents with me and with my sister. And that was very courageous, of course, and maybe a bit risky,
as well.
dangerous, yes. But she did it, she wasn't afraid. And so my parents have seen me during the war once at least. After the war, I don't remember exactly how, but they came to collect me and they had no problem of giving me back, which was generally also problematic, because people who cared for children during a couple of years got attached to them.
Yeah, and they didn't want it back.
Yeah. There were, after the war, there were still famous cases, court cases, who lasted for years about children, giving children back, and who were in a convent.
A convent, and some were baptized.
Yes.
And
Yeah, of course.
And once
in
they were
convent.
baptized,
And the Catholics were very difficult to handle, to give a child a soul back. Huh? Yeah. Well, that's my story.
And Avraham, I just want to ask you, with such an incredible story, with your parents, where did they hide during the war?
They had also found two addresses, I think. One address, at least, where they stayed for a longer time, I think against payment, and they got the Aliyat Hagak.
In the roof, the attic.
Yeah, the attic, and they stayed there. They couldn't stand erect even, and at night sometimes they were allowed to be aired to get some fresh air, but they stayed there all day.
And do you remember the reunion with your parents?
No, I don't remember.
So what is your first recollections that you have, really? And that's a hard
I remember going on the Shabbos morning with my mother, Olea Shalom, to shul, being stopped in the street by Canadian soldiers who offered her some sweets or something like it. That's one of the first things. I remember very well the place where my sister was hidden, where apparently also was taken to visit. There was a smith, a locksmith, and had a lot of agricultural machinery around the house, around the workshop, and that's where I played a lot. And that was it. That's my first very early recollections.
And after the war, did your family, did they stay in the area, or did they move to Amsterdam?
No, they moved. They stayed there. I was brought up there. I went to Goyish Elementary School and to half of the grammar school, and then happened something, never mind, and I could finish the grammar school at the Jewish grammar school in Amsterdam. So I got a room in Amsterdam and was able to finish there.
And your parents remained in Holland?
They remained in Holland, and they remained in Enschede, in this same place. But later, after I married and I went to live with my late wife straight in Amsterdam, because we didn't want to be buried there in this small place, then my parents came as well. They moved to Amsterdam, and we moved the business to Amsterdam, in the vicinity of it, and that's where they spent their last years.
And what type of business did your parents have?
Agricultural machinery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And can I ask, what happened with your sister?
My sister lives here. She married to a Danish man.
But did she grow up? She also grew up in.
Yeah, in the same vicinity of Enschede as I did. But this was a different township, but not far away. I think she lived 40 kilometers, 30 kilometers from Enschede. My place was 15 or something like it.
And can I ask, in your family, your parents, their relatives, your uncles and aunts or grandparents, what happened to them during the Shoah?
My grandparents from mother's side went also in hiding in Enschede, and they survived there. That is to say, my grandmother passed away the natural way shortly before the end of the war. She was amazingly buried in the Jewish cemetery in Enschede. My grandfather lived with us after the war till he came once here, and I think it was in 55, 56. And during his holiday here, he passed away, was buried in Haifa. That is my grandparents from father's side. I've never known. They died quite early, and
did they die before the war?
Before the war, yes. My father had 7 sisters, I think, who all survived. By some, everybody has his own story.
And they were all also hidden during the war?
Not all of them, no. One was in a concentration camp, I know. One was hidden, yes, in Holland. One lived in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel, later in America. I think 2 were also in camps, in concentration camps.
Were they in Westerbroek? In the
Westerbroek was a transition camp, was not a concentration camp.
I know, but were they sent there ever, or?
Yes, yeah. They certainly the one aunt who was in Bergen-Belsen in Germany went through Westerbork.
But they survived all the.
Yes. She.
Wow. And on your mother's side, it is amazing. On your mother's side,
she had only one sister who passed away in the beginning of the war in Switzerland, because she was there as a TB patient, St. Gallen.
And I just want to ask you, because it's an amazing story. After the war, when you were in a non-Jewish school, did you ever experience any anti-Semitism or?
Yes, there was anti-Semitism. That was a part of the folklore of the local population. Yeah, it was called after on the streets. Dirty Jew and so on.
And you remember it?
Yeah, I remember that very well.
Did you go with the kippah?
I always had my head covered. Not in the class, but in the street, yes.
With a cap or a
Yeah,
yarmulke?
cap, yes.
Not with a yarmulke.
No.
But people knew you were Jewish.
Yes, apparently.
And you had non-Jewish friends?
Yes, also. Yeah. Yes. I remember I was 6 years old, first grade, you say, first grade in elementary school, and there is a popular feast among the Dutch, which is called Santa Claus. It's not the Santa Claus of Christmas, but is also a Catholic, a holy man, and he comes together with a black man with a big bag on his back, and the naughty children are taken to Spain, I think. And so I was in first class, and these 40 children who were there was one Jewish boy, and he was called to Santa Claus, to come to Santa Claus, and he took me on his lap and said, "Do you see now that I'm real?" Because there were parents who had complained to the school staff that I told everywhere that he is not real.
Wow.
That's something I remember very vividly, yes. But in general, there was no real anti-Semitism, no. Not a bit superficially, but not real, no.
And I mean, you went through the Shoah. After the Shoah, when it became known of the horrors and the terrible happenings that happened in Europe and what happened to Dutch Jewry, a large percentage of Dutch Jewry, unfortunately,
yes, very large,
were sent to the camps.
My parents never spoke about it.
They never
Only
spoke.
when they met family or friends, then the topic was discussed, but otherwise not. Not with us.
But I must just mention, Avraham, it's that a total stranger was prepared to take you and your
It's
sister.
very special.
It's unique, and it really is exceptionally special. And
At his life's risk, huh? Risking their lives.
Really risking their lives.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there are many stories where people, and it was very easy to be betrayed, and the families were killed.
Yeah. That was very special.
Well, you come from a very, very special family. And your book, this diary, it's in Yad Vashem.
Yes. I gave it to them because they promised me photocopies. They still have to do that. But none of my children reads Dutch. They can read it, but it is difficult to read. So it makes no sense to keep it there.
And is it
children.
on display at Yad Vashem?
I doubt it. They have many things which is simply store away. But it's documented, and it must be able to find it. Yes.
That is really remarkable. That your parents and your father's sisters and you and your sister, thank God, it's a miracle.
My father had two more brothers who perished during the war.
Were they sent to the camps?
Yes.
Do you have any documentation where they were sent, or any knowledge?
No, not exactly. But I know that one brother was killed on the death marches from Auschwitz, I think. Well, they lived till the end, but didn't make it.
And the last thing that I just want to mention is, Aaron, we see you with the kippah on and your family remained from, and I think this is such a testament that people that went through such unimaginable hardships. I mean, to be separated from your parents, to have given their children, they didn't know where they were going. They could have, and they didn't know what was going to happen. It must have been so, that decision to give your children away for, that they would be saved, must have been one of the hardest decisions any parent could ever even contemplate.
It was indeed. My mother suffered in her last years from Parkinson's disease and had some times that she wasn't very clear or saw things which were not really there, and then visions from the wartime came up, and that was, she said, when she visited here, it happened more than once that she started calling me, where's Bram, where is me, yeah, that's my name, my calling name, and where's Leah, that was my older sister, yeah. But that's made a deep impression, but it never came to the, it never uttered it, never uttered it when they were younger.
Because they wanted to, must probably protect you and give you a normal life.
Yeah.
So I just want to...
my parents, by the way, also adopted 2 nephews after the war, who were stayed alone. Their parents perished, and so I was brought up with 5 sisters and 2 stepmothers.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm just Avraham, I really just want to thank you so much. It's been such an honor and a privilege to meet you and to hear your story. And really, thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity, and Yasher Kochachem.
Thank you. Really, there are no words. Your story, it's unbelievable. It really is. It's
everybody's story is.
Everybody's story is. It really is, but it's.
Yeah.
It's on many levels. What your parents, their heroism, the people that risked their lives to take you, and they weren't rewarded. I'm sure they didn't even know who your parents were.
Yeah. The stepmother wrote in the diary in the beginning, I'm writing this diary for the pleasure or for the good feeling of the biological mother.
Who she never knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after the war, to give you back must have been incredibly difficult.
There was no point to them. They had decided on that before that already. When the parents come back, we'll give the child back. That's what he did, without any problems.
But God, in a way, Hashem, rewarded them by giving them 3 of their own children.
Yeah.
What an amazing story. Thank you so much, Bemet. I so appreciate it.